Hello, I'm Tom with the list of interesting things. Today on the list of interesting political things is President-elect Joe Biden. That's right, after a long, grueling campaign and 4 days of near constant vote-counting anxiety, I think that it is finally safe for us to call the race in favor of the former vice president. Today we're going to take a look at the races he won, the races he lost, the races that are still technically outstanding, and why those are almost certainly going for Vice President Biden. Let's dive right in. Before we do, I would like to remind everyone that elections are complicated and votes take a long time to count. There have been many allegations from one individual in particular of notable impropriety in the election results. Those are broadly baseless, and as you will see over the course of this discussion, even if they weren't, they won't matter. Let's dive right in. We're going to take a look at the Washington Post election results page. As you can see, Biden is favored to win Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, according to them. Most of the news sources and the Biden campaign itself have been hesitant to declare victory, but he has most definitely won. So the races that we knew he was going to win: Washington, Oregon, California, New Mexico, New York, Virginia, and the majority of the Northeast, plus the ones that we thought he was going to win, and Hawaii, plus the ones that we thought he was going to win, Colorado, Minnesota, and I think that's it, banded together in conjunction with the ones that he won narrowly, Michigan and Wisconsin, and the ones that he is winning narrowly, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, to give him a total of 306 electoral votes. There is some irony to that, in that 306 electoral votes to 232 is exactly the margin that Hillary Clinton ended up losing to Donald Trump by in 2016, just in the reverse. So we'll do this state by state. Let's start with the big one. Actually, you know what? We'll finish with the big one. Let's start with the little one. Let's start with Nevada. Nevada has been very slow to count their votes, but Joe Biden is up by 2%, a total of around 20,500 votes. This is a nearly unassailable margin. That is not to say that it is unassailable, but it is nearly unassailable. Nevada still has a lot of votes left outstanding, but the overwhelming majority of those votes are in Clark County down at the south. That's Las Vegas. Las Vegas is heavily Democratic, so most of the votes that come back in, as you can see, this is 88% reporting, most of the votes that come back in are going to favor Joe Biden. Moving on to Georgia. Georgia is the one that was kind of a Hail Mary for the Democratic Party, and this was the one on my last official election prediction video. This was the one that I thought that the Democratic Party was going to win the least likely, the least percentage, the smallest percentage of the time did I think that Georgia was going to flip. But here it is, by an incredibly slim margin of only about, oh goodness, it has expanded, hasn't it? Of looks like 7,200 votes. 7,200 votes in favor of Joe Biden is the state of Georgia. This is because on election night, they count the in-person votes in Georgia, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and a number of other states. They count the in-person votes first. And then, due to quirks of state law, they then, after that, count the absentee votes or mail-in votes. Most of the absentee and mail-in votes this year from across the country have been majority Democratic, because Donald Trump has been, for the last several months, intimating to his supporters that mail-in voting was fraudulent and that they should vote in person. And the Democratic Party has been saying, don't vote in person because COVID's a thing. Don't go in and stand next to each other. Instead, mail your votes in and drop them off. So they have been majority Democratic. And we saw this incredible swing, this incredible comeback in the states of Pennsylvania and Georgia, where over the course of 3 days, as they slowly but surely counted the remaining 20, 15, 10% in those states, Joe Biden slowly climbed back until, in both of those states, he passed them. If you took a look at where the outstanding votes were, this is what this map tells you. These hashed counties are the ones that are not fully reporting. On Wednesday afternoon, when Donald Trump was still leading, most of Atlanta was still hashed. That was where most of the votes came from. So was Savannah, I believe. Moving right along to Pennsylvania, to Arizona, I mean. By the way, in Georgia, this is very likely to go to a recount. Same thing with Wisconsin. They are just super tight margins, and they're probably going to, as prescribed by state law, they're probably going to recount in those states. But as is the reason that I'm making this projection right now, that is unlikely to matter. Moving on to Arizona. Arizona was actually the first one of these called. The Associated Press and Fox News both called this for Joe Biden. There's still plenty of votes out, and this is actually the one that is kind of the anomaly. Nevada, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and North Carolina have all had their outstanding absentee votes heavily favoring the Democratic Party. This one has had them lightly favoring the Republican Party. So if there's one that I thought was possible to flip, this would be it. But the reason that we're making this prediction is it doesn't matter at this point. Moving on to the big one, Pennsylvania. If Joe Biden wins Pennsylvania, then he wins the election. Pennsylvania is worth 20 electoral votes. If he wins Pennsylvania, he gets pushed to 273. Remember, 270 is the tipping point. He gets pushed to 273 votes, and that's the ball game. Let's take a look at Pennsylvania. On election night, Donald Trump was up, I believe, by several 100,000 votes, and over the course, and with to the tune of 62% reporting, they began to count the absentee votes. As they started to count the absentee votes, the absentee votes were 60, 65, 70, 75, sometimes 80% in favor of the former vice president. And those just added up and added up and added up. And over the course of that last 40%, which we are most of the way through right now, we're currently 95% of the way through the vote. As they pushed through those last percentages, Joe Biden caught up and caught up and caught up and caught up until eventually he passed them. He is now leading by 28,000 votes. He is now further ahead here than he is in Wisconsin. And Wisconsin is also a done deal. Let's see, is he further ahead here than he is in Michigan? No, certainly not. But he's further ahead here than he is in Wisconsin. Donald Trump would need to pull more votes, a greater swing in Pennsylvania than he would need in Wisconsin. And honestly, at this point, that is exceptionally unlikely, especially as you can see down here, a significant portion of the remaining votes to be counted are from Philadelphia County. There's 4% still outstanding in Philadelphia County. If we do some quick back-of-the-napkin math here, let's call it 600,000 votes counted currently in Philadelphia County. Let's say there's going to be 700,000 total. 1% of 700,000 is 70,000. 4% of 700,000 is 1% times 4. So, 7,000. So there's another 28,000 votes. This is why you should never do math live. There's another 28,000 votes there. If 80% of those go to Joe Biden, then he will not. He is as is indicated here by the current split. If 80% of those votes go to Joe Biden, then that will increase his lead by another 20,000 votes. Same thing in Scranton, which is moderately Democratic. Same thing in Pittsburgh, which is heavily Democratic. Same thing in Erie, which is actually really close this year. This is fascinating. This was an incredible flip. So Joe Biden is up here by half a point, and with every passing hour, he gets further and further ahead. This for the last 3 days, I have been resisting chicken counting. I have been resisting saying this is going to be what happens. But at this point, the writing is on the wall, and I think we all have to see it. The final tally is very likely to be Joe Biden with something like 52% of the Electoral College vote, as we still have 25% of California out, and Donald Trump with like 45% of the popular vote. Those are popular vote totals, and Joe Biden with at least 273, probably 306. I would like to note that there is one other state that is still outstanding. Currently in North Carolina, there's 270,000, I should say. This is data from last night. Last night, the data said that there's 270,000 outstanding votes, with many of them from Raleigh, many of them from Charlotte. It is not unreasonable to suppose that this one will narrow up considerably, but it depends on how the North Carolinian absentee ballots go. In Arizona, they sway toward the Republican Party by a narrow margin, but in Pennsylvania and Georgia and Nevada and most other places in the country, they sway toward the Democratic Party by an incredible margin. So North Carolina could still be in play, but for the moment, I don't think that it is. This is an election call in favor of Joe Biden as the president-elect of the United States. This, of course, does not involve any Electoral College shenanigans. This does not involve any shenanigans in the courts. It could be the case that Donald Trump manages to get a significant... If he manages to get 300,000 votes thrown out in the state of Pennsylvania, it could be the case that that he manages to take back the lead. But as the electoral votes currently stand, assuming that every vote is counted that was cast in these 5 states, I should say, Joe Biden will win the presidency. So until next time, I hope that you will be like President-elect Joe Biden, tenacious and capable of overcoming incredible deficits. And above all, I hope you'll be interesting. See you next time.